Anishna, nin Waabishki Meegwan, Bighuz dudem. Ani wabanong, yetnong, ipingishmok, kiwaranong, ki bish, manatu. I will speak to you in the only foreign language I know, English. We are the Anishinaabe. We have stories that have been passed down from generation to generation. We walk this earth and show other people how to appreciate the earth, to take care of her. For she is depending on us as much as we, the Anishinaabe, depend on her. She is our mother. The white man is learning. These stories were passed down from the generations to teach not the children of tomorrow, but the children of the future. The earth is a mother and takes care of us. I know that someday there will be war, even though I am not a prophet. The war will be between those who think the world owes them something and those who know that she has already given us everything we possess. For she is our mother and our children's children's mother. It is our job to care for her. When it rains, it teaches us to walk a good path. These stories I share have a meaning. Many times, the Creator blesses us with that water, Bish, gives us the gift of life. So with that, I want to share a story that has meaning, that talks about all those things. I invited the spirits from all four directions, Wabanong, Yetnong, Ipingishmok, Waranong, represented here in this circle today is the Mohawk, the Sioux, the Oglala Sioux, Cherokee, Cheyenne, Choctaw, Chickasaw. All tribes are represented in the circle. And for those who are present, because it doesn't matter how much of the language we use, even if it's one word, the ancestors hear us. So say those words when you can. Even if it's just the only word you know, speak the language when you can, because the ancients are here with us. For every one of you, there is 10,000 natives behind you, listening to what is said. One day, and this was many years ago, back in a time when the Model T first came out, an Indian man got a job driving a car for a very rich man, a Model T. And one day he asked his owner, "Can I take it out with my wife and my child?" And they took out the Model T. They were driving around, and the brakes went out, and there was a horrific crash. The parents were killed, and the young man was sent to an orphanage with many of our people. And at the orphanage, they were told not to speak their language. But that's the only language he knew, and he spoke it. And one day they beat him for it, and they beat him so severely that they blinded him. He became an adult. He turned 18. Then he went on his own. He built a cabin, he married, brought his children up, and when they got older, they went on their own path of life. They didn't come by during holidays, Christmas. They didn't come by in November at the ghost suppers. They didn't come by for a lot of reasons because they were busy. And then one day, a knock came on the door. "Finnegan, said the old man, who was blind. His young nephew came in. He said, "Grandfather, teach me the old traditional way." And the grandfather looked as though he was in deep thought, and his hand came up and he pointed at the little boy. He said, "You come back tomorrow." And the little boy was excited because he thought, "I'm going to learn of the old ways, the old teachings." So he ran home all excited, and he couldn't even sleep that night. He was so excited. Finally, he fell asleep. And he got up the next morning and he ran to his grandfather's. He knocked on the door. "Benjamin!" The little boy went in. He said, "Grandfather, teach me the old traditional way." The hand again came up. "You come back tomorrow." The little boy left a little discouraged, but he thought, "My grandfather's going to teach me." So he ran home all excited, grateful that his grandfather would teach him the old ways. He went back the next day, he ran. And when he knocked on the door, the old man said, "Benjamin!" So he went in. And for the third time, the hand came up and he said, "You come back tomorrow." Now the little boy was discouraged. He thought, "You know what? I'm not going to come back." So he stayed out and he played the next day. He stayed out and he played the next day. But his heart wasn't in it. And his father saw him and he thought, "There's something wrong with my son." So the next morning he asked his son, he said, "Son, why do you feel so bad? I could tell by the way you were playing with your friends." And the son said, "I asked my grandfather 3 times to teach me the old ways. And 3 times he said, 'You come back tomorrow.' I don't think he's going to teach me." And the father smiled. He went into his room. And when he came out, he had a little bit of cloth, and inside the cloth was some tobacco tied with a leather strand. He said, "This time when you go see your grandfather, give him this, and then you can come home and teach me." So the little boy, he didn't think his grandfather would do it, so he walked really slow. He finally got to his grandfather's house and knocked on the door. "Benjamin!" said the old man. Little boy went in, he said, "Grandfather, please teach me the old traditional ways." And the little boy saw the hand coming up. He knew he was going to say it, so he grabbed his hand and he put that tobacco in his hand. And the old man used his other hand to touch it. And when he did, he smiled. And it made his wrinkled face look even more wrinkled, like an old prune, because he was so happy. So he took the tobacco and he grabbed that little boy by the hand and they started walking. And every place that they walked, he showed him the tracks of the rabbit and how to tell the difference between the male and the female. He showed him the tracks of the deer, the Waabishki, and the difference between the way a male and a female walk. He showed him the plants and told him the same thing he said of the animals. Never take the female's life so that they can reproduce. Always take the male. And he was sharing as much as he could, and they went higher and higher up the side of a mountain. And when they got to the top of the mountain, the grandfather was headed for the edge of the cliff, and the little boy tried to stop him by pulling back on his arm, but he didn't want to interrupt him because he was still talking. The grandfather got right to the edge of the cliff and he stopped. And his feet were hanging over the edge. The little boy looked down and he rubbed his forehead. And the old man said, "I think I'll go down there and make some tea." And the little boy said, "But grandfather, that's a cliff. You'll get hurt. But with that, the old man jumped. The little boy looked down the edge of the cliff and saw him fall through the clouds. And then he put his hand over his ear and listened and waiting for him to hit. But he never did. And all of a sudden, he heard from the bottom of the cliff, "Are you coming? The tea is almost done." Now people may wonder, because you can get good things from stories. That's the end of the story. But what I got from it, that old man was blind, but he believed in the culture, the teachings, the traditional ways. And he tried to teach that young man. That young man should have had the courage to jump, to believe. Because when we start learning about the culture, it is something that is very serious. And we must take it that way. And be willing to go all the way. And at times when we doubt it, that's when blind faith should come into play. You are the ancestors of the traditional people. You may be in a game, but we are learning and we are educating. And people will remember. We walk the path of a traditional, and we walk it with others, but no one can walk it for you. It is up to you. So I ask that you share these, because people may not remember, but you must always retell the story so that they never forget. Miigwech, 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 miigwech.